Afternoon. It's 12 o'clock.
You're listening to 98.3 FM, WRLR LP, Round Lake Heights, Illinois.
Welcome to the Dave Mierswa Show, the cutting-edge talk show about legal, political, and current issues. Practicing in both Wisconsin and Illinois, David Mierswa is a leading trial attorney, bringing nearly 2 decades of business law, family law, personal injury, and estate planning experience to you. The Dave Mierswa Show, about the people, for the people, and bringing justice to the people. The Dave Mierswa Show, its guests, agents, and WRLR are not rendering any legal advice. All listeners are encouraged to seek legal advice from properly licensed and qualified professionals.
Good afternoon. I hope everyone is having a great Sunday out there. Oh, looks like another great day out there, and I'm going to switch microphones here if you guys can hang on a minute here. There we go. Got the right microphone on. I think this will come in a little bit better, so give me a second here to get this fired up a little bit. There we go. We got some good volume here. You are now tuned in to the Dave Mierswa Show. We had about 20 seconds of distortion there, technical difficulty, but I got everything working here. I hope everyone's having a great Sunday out there. I gotta tell you, I had a very interesting week last week, and both legally and personally. Had a sister that flew in from Florida about a week ago, and we are dealing, I said about 5-6 weeks ago on the show, I was running up to Wisconsin quite a bit, and my sister really pitched in and helped out with my mom. My mom took a spell and fell twice in 24 hours, so that's been a real legal nightmare because I'm dealing with all the insurance companies, I'm dealing with all the legal fallout. And I got to tell you, she's pretty lucky that she's got a son that's an attorney. Because I can imagine that you would have to go through all the things that you go through with the elderly without having some kind of attorney. I'll tell you that much. But anyway, you have just tuned in to the Dave Mierswa Show. This show is a show about the people, for the people, and bringing justice to the people. I have been a lawyer for almost 20 years, and I have street smarts, I have trial street smarts, and been a lawyer for almost 20 years, folks. I can't believe my show has been on WRLR for over a year now, if you can believe that. I'm a year older. I know I don't look it. That's a joke because we're on the radio. So, pretty bad one at that, right? So it looks like a great day out there. I'm going to cut right into the topics of what we are going to be talking about shortly. Let me get my shout outs out of the way here. All of my previous shows are uploaded to YouTube. All you have to do is go in the little search box and put in Dave Mierswa, Mierswa, and you can see my pretty face on YouTube. They're usually posted within 24 hours. And then also all of my shows, if you want to listen, go to law540.com. Law540.com. They're, again, usually posted within 24 hours. Also, I have other good resources on that website. So, law540.com. All right, let me get my shout outs out of the way here, and then I will dive right into the show. So, we have Beach Fest coming up 2016, Friday, June 24th, running through Sunday, June 26th. 2016. It's time to sign up. Go to Beach Fest Volunteer at rlbccf.org. Yeah, that is a mouthful. Let me repeat that. Beach Fest Volunteer at rlbccf.org. And again, that is Friday, June 24th through Sunday, June 26, 2016. The location of this is 2007 Civic Way, Round Lake Beach, next to the metro station. So it looks like a pretty cool event. Make sure you check that out. Also, on Sunday, June 26th, which is 7 days from now, which would be next Sunday, 7 a.m. to 12 p.m., Antioch Pancakes I'm telling you, folks, I'm fired up. My brain is running 20 miles per hour, but my jaw is moving at about 2 miles per hour. I haven't had enough coffee yet. I've been up since 4 a.m. this morning, so bear with me, and I'll get it together eventually. If not, the show will be over. So, all right. Antioch Pancake Breakfast Fundraiser, Sunday, June 26, 2016, 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. Antioch Fire Station, 835 Holbrook Drive in Antioch. And along with the Pancake Breakfast is a tour for the fire station. The Antioch Firefighters Association will be showcasing the station, the equipment, every day by the firefighters, used every day by the firefighters. Tickets can be purchased the day of the breakfast. You can contact Antioch Fire Station at 847-395-5511, 847-395-5511. All right, so those are my PSAs. I got a couple more here that's near and dear to my heart. I've dedicated my life for certain causes. And, for you, the friends and listeners out there, you should pick like 2 or 3 causes and stick with them for your entire life. And I'm telling what a difference that you can make for not only people, but also animals. That's right. Reach Rescue is a non-for-profit located in Mundelein. That's Reach Rescue. They have an adoption center, which is located in a Mundelein strip mall. And then right next door is a resale shop. So if you're looking at buying some more stuff, stop in there. It's all tax deductible, pretty cool. They've saved a lot of animals. And then also near and dear to my heart is Save a Pet, located in Grays Lake. They are also a non-for-profit. Great organization. Has literally saved thousands and thousands and thousands of cats and dogs and other animals. Okay, those are my shout outs today. I have a very important topic that I'm going to be diving into today. And some of the outcomes of what I'm going to be talking about is not really surprising to me. But some of the audio clips I'm going to be playing today may surprise you. Maybe it won't. Anyway, the thing that I'm going to be talking about today, you guessed it, it's the Orlando shooting. And the scumbag shooter, first of all, this is just my opinion, but I'm happy he's dead. I hate to say that on a Sunday, but you know what? It saved everyone a trial and saved millions of dollars and saved this guy from becoming a martyr. And, who knows what was running through his head. But we're going to examine not only the political point of view of this, but also we're going to examine what some of the victims went through in this. And then I'm going to kind of elicit my opinion a little bit, but again, I'm going to try to minimize it, as I always do. And I'm going to do both sides of the coin today, as I always try to do in my show. Okay, so the first audio clip here today is CNN's emotional tribute to the victims. So let me play that right away in its entirety. I think that's important. So let me get this queued up and then we'll listen to that. And by the way, my heart and my thoughts are with all the victims that the shooter did. It really is. And I've experienced a few deaths in my family, and some were pretty tragic. And I gotta say, it's heart-wrenching to see them go through this. And then also, a heart goes out to the LGBT community as well. I do love the way that everyone is band together, and in a lot of these cases. But anyway, let me play the first CNN emotional tribute to the victims.
There are more than a list of names. There are people who loved and were loved. There are people with families and friends and dreams. And the truth is, we don't know much about some of them. We want you to hear their names and a little bit about who they were. Edward Sotomayor Jr. He worked at a travel agency that catered to the gay community. His family says he was witty, charming. and that he always left things better than he found them. He was 34 years old. Stanley Almodovar III. He was a pharmacy technician. It was the last video that we saw of him, was posted on social media, that showed him laughing and singing on the way to that nightclub. He was just 23. Luis Omar Ocasio Capo. He was a dancer and a barista. He was just 20 years old. Luis Vielma. He worked at that Harry Potter ride at Universal Orlando. He was just 22. Juan Ramon Guerrero. His cousin said Juan came out to his family just this year, was afraid they might not accept him, but they did, and they embraced his boyfriend as well. He was 22. Christopher Andrew Lee, known as Drew. He was Juan's boyfriend, and his mom says he established the Gay-Straight Alliance at his high school. He was 32 years old. Eric Ivan Ortiz Rivera. A friend says he was always willing to help everybody and sacrificed a lot for his family. He was 36. Peter O. Gonzalez Cruz worked at a UPS store, memorized apparently all the regular customers' names. He could make anyone smile, his friend said. He was just 22. Kimberly KJ Morris moved from Hawaii to Florida just a few months ago to help her mother and her grandmother. She was a bouncer at Pulse nightclub. She was 37. Eddie Justice was an accountant who texted his mother from the club, texted his mother saying, "Mommy, I love you." He was 30. Enrique Rios. A friend says he was cool and a funny dude who could tell people, don't let the world hold you back from your dreams. He was 25. Anthony Luis Laureano Disla, a talented dancer born in Puerto Rico. He was 25. Jonathan Antonio Camui Vega. He worked for Telemundo, first in Puerto Rico and then in Orlando. He was just about to turn 25. Corey James Connell was a student at Valencia Community College and hoped to become a firefighter. He was 21. Mercedes Marisol Flores. Her father says she was a happy girl who had so many dreams. She was 26. Dianca Deirdre Drayden. Her family called her Dee Dee. She was a bartender at Pulse. She was just 32. Miguel Angel Honorato managed a Mexican restaurant. A colleague says he was an excellent boss and a good friend. He was 30. Jason Benjamin Josephat, a student at Southern Technical College, where a faculty member calls him a sweet kid with a bright future. He was 19. Daryl Roman Bird II was a financial aid officer at Kaiser University. He was passionate about volunteer work. He was 29. Jean Carlos Mendez Perez was a perfume salesman. Apparently he hit the gym almost every day, and his friend said he was always happy. He was 35. Perez's longtime partner, Luis Daniel Wilson Leon, grew up in a small town in Puerto Rico and was a shoe store manager. He was 37. They died together. Frankie Jimmy De Jesus Velasquez, a professional dancer specializing in a traditional folk dance of his native Puerto Rico. He was 50. Amanda Alvear, she was a nursing student at the University of South Florida, was 25. Martin Benitez Torres. He was a college student in Puerto Rico visiting family in Orlando. He was 33. Juan Chavez Martinez. His co-workers at a hotel say he was a kind, a loving person. He was just 25. Gerald Arthur Wright worked at Disney World. The co-worker says he was wonderful with the guests. He was always smiling. He was 31. Leroy Valentin Fernandez worked leasing apartments. A co-worker says he sang Adele in the office until they couldn't take it anymore. He was 25. Tevin Eugene Crosby, dedicated, hard-working business owner from Michigan. He was just 25. Brenda Lee Marquez McCool, she had 11 kids, beat cancer twice, and often went dancing at Pulse with her gay son. She supported him that much. She was 49. Her son survived the shooting. Angel El Candelario Padro recently moved to Orlando. He was new here. He just started a new job as a technician at the Florida Retina Institute. He was 28. Gilberto Ramon Silva Menendez was studying healthcare management. His family says that he was the light and life of all family gatherings. He was 25. Javier Jorge Reyes was a salesman at Gucci. Friends say he was always positive. He was humble, a lovely friend. He was 40. Shane Evan Tomlinson was a gifted singer who performed at weddings and clubs. He was 33. Simone Adrian Carrillo Fernandez worked at McDonald's, where he brought in birthday cakes for his co-workers, and had just gotten back from a trip to Niagara Falls with his partner. He was 31. Oscar Aracena Montero was Simon's partner. He was 26. They also died together. Rodolfo Ayala. Ayala worked at a blood donation center, was a Puerto Rican native, loved to dance. He was 33 years old. Frank Hernandez, he worked at a Calvin Klein store, was a great brother and had no gender tattooed on his arm. He was 27. Xavier Emmanuel Serrano Rosado was a dancer, described as hardworking and friendly, proud of his son. He was 33. Akira Monet Murray, she recently graduated from high school, was planning to go to Mercyhurst University and play basketball. She was just 18. And Christopher Joseph San Feliz worked at a bank, was said to be the most positive guy around, was just 24-year-old. Luis Daniel Conde was a makeup artist, co-owned a salon with his partner. He was 39. Juan P. Rivera Velasquez, he was the partner to Luis. He was 37. Antonio Devon Brown was a captain in the, was a captain in the U.S. Army Reserve and a graduate of Florida A&M. He was 29. Alejandro Barrios Martinez was 21. Joel Rayon Paniagua was 32. Jean Neves Rodriguez was 27. We don't have pictures of these people. Bill Murray Rodriguez Sullivan was 24. And Paul Terrell Henry was 41 years old. I think it's important that you hear their names.
Okay, that was a pretty emotional, drenched audio clip from CNN News reciting all the names of the victims and some of their background. And wow, that's pretty powerful. It's hard to kind of reboot after that and all the emotions that run with that. And I can't imagine what all the families are going through. And it's one thing if someone passes away, but it's another thing when they are murdered in such the fashion that they were, and all the carnage that happened. But we're going to have to kind of buckle up here a little bit and shift gears. And but again, I said at the beginning of the show that my heart goes out to all the families and also the LGBT community. It really, you try to explain some of this. I know that some of my audio clips are going to get into the psychology of of the shooter, and also I got some audio clips of his father and some of the outrageous things that he said, which is unbelievable. So again, my heart goes out to all the families and to all the victims as well. This kind of stuff should never happen, but it is a reality that is out there. And I'm not going to talk about the Chicago shootings, but I want to talk just about that for a minute. I don't want to get sidetracked here, but it's like every weekend is like a war zone in Chicago. And whatever they're doing to quash the shootings in Chicago, it is definitely not working. Whatever they're doing, the community and the police force and the poor people that are held hostage to all of the shootings that's going on. And if you ever listen to the media, they call it gun violence. Okay, and that is because they're trying to blame the gun. And yeah, you can blame whatever tool is out there, but it's not gun violence. It's got to be a form of gang violence using guns illegally. In this case, that's what happened here again. Let's get into what Donald Trump said, and this is an audio by Complex News.
Hi guys, for Complex News, I'm Emily Oberg. Not long after President Obama released a statement in response to the Orlando shooting, Donald Trump shared his thoughts on the matter, criticizing Obama for being both weak and ineffective. In his initial statement, Obama expressed his condolences for the families who lost loved ones, while also addressing the act of terrorism against our country and what the FBI's next steps are into finding answers.
I just finished a meeting with FBI Director Comey and my Homeland Security and National Security advisors. The FBI is on the scene and leading the investigation in partnership with local law enforcement. I've directed that the full resources of the federal government be made available for this investigation.
He also addressed the ongoing debate of gun control and how the series of recent shootings should be considered when making those decisions.
This massacre is therefore a further reminder of how easy it is for someone to get their hands on a weapon that lets them shoot people in a school or in a house of worship or a movie theater or in a nightclub. And we have to decide if that's the kind of country we want to be.
Presumptive Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton also weighed in, expressing similar sentiments as Obama while classifying the attack as an act of hate, adding, "This is the deadliest mass shooting in the history of the United States, and it reminds us once more that weapons of war have no place on our streets." Donald Trump then responded as we would expect him to, by name-calling and bashing both Clinton and Obama, saying that they should both step down for being too sensitive. In his remarks today, President Obama disgracefully refused to even say the words radical Islam, Trump explained, adding, "For that reason alone, he should step down. If Hillary Clinton, after this attack, still cannot say the two words radical Islam, she should get out of this race for the presidency." He then went on to say that he predicted such an attack would happen, saying, "Because our leaders are weak, I said this was going to happen, and it is only going to get worse. I'm trying to save lives and prevent the next terrorist attack. We can't afford to be politically correct anymore." That's news for now, but to stay updated on this story as it develops, subscribe to Complex on YouTube today.
Okay, so that was some back and forth between Donald Trump and the president. And here is Donald Trump stating that Obama is afraid to name the enemy. Let me cue this up for you. This is interesting.
The massacre is now impacting the presidential race. Donald Trump is under fire for what some see as an insensitive tweet. Appreciate the congrats for being right on radical Islamic terrorism. I don't want congrats, I want toughness and vigilance. We must be smart. Trump spoke out about the massacre today, saying the president is afraid to call it an act of Islamic terrorism.
He won't even use the term radical Islamic terrorism, which I think is insulting to our country and it's insulting to everybody. And if you don't use the term, if you don't describe what's happening, you're never going to solve the problem.
Hillary Clinton is speaking out too.
Trump, as usual, is obsessed with name calling, and from my perspective, it matters what we do, not what we say. It mattered that we got bin Laden, not what name we called him. But if he is somehow suggesting I don't call this for what it is, he hasn't been listening.
So Hillary finally this last week, she did state that part of the enemy is radical Islam. And she finally came out after years and years and years. In December, she said she would never mention what she just did. So Donald Trump is definitely having an effect on the media. He is setting the agenda, whether you like it or not. And interesting what's going on back and forth between the two. And did you hear in one of the audio clips, they said weapons of war. And this, again, you're going to hear the media on the left will always call it gun violence. They won't say gang violence. They will always use these certain terms of art that they want you to accept, and and this is used for their agenda. So if you heard on one of the audios just played, they said weapons of war. And the weapons of war they're referring to, or they'll call it an assault weapon. And an assault weapon, as we go on technically, they're distorting what it is. The semi-automatic is not a weapon of war, okay? That's one of the differentiations that a weapon of war that the military uses can be full automatic. That's one of the huge differences. And then also, one of the things, like late at night, if you're listening to some of the late night news broadcasters in Chicago about all the shootings that are going on, listen very carefully. They'll say, excuse me, they will say, not instead of gang violence, they say gun violence. Oh, there's been 60 shootings this weekend because of the gun violence. And that's inaccurate. It's mostly gang violence. Kind of losing my voice here a little bit. All right, got it back. So that's what Donald Trump had to say to Obama. Let's hear, before we go to break, let's hear what Obama has to say about Donald Trump. And this is an audio clip from the New York Times.
Enough talking about being tough on terrorism. Actually be tough on terrorism and stop making it easy as possible for terrorists to buy assault weapons. For a while now, the main contribution of some of my friends on the other side of the aisle have made in the fight against ISIL is to criticize this administration and me for not using the phrase radical Islam. They know who the nature of the enemy is. So there's no magic to the phrase radical Islam. It's a political talking point. It's not a strategy. And if we fall into the trap of painting all Muslims with a broad brush and imply that we are at war with an entire religion, then we are doing the terrorist work for them. But we are now seeing how dangerous this kind of mindset and this kind of thinking can be. We're starting to see where this kind of rhetoric and loose talk and sloppiness about who exactly we're fighting, where this can lead us. We now have proposals from the presumptive Republican nominee for President of the United States to bar all Muslims from immigrating to America. We hear language that singles out immigrants and suggests entire religious communities are complicit in violence. Where does this stop? Because that's not the America we want. It doesn't reflect our democratic ideals. It won't make us more safe, it will make us less safe, fueling ISIL's notion that the West hates Muslims. We've gone through moments in our history before when we acted out of fear, and we came to regret it. This is a country founded on basic freedoms, including freedom of religion. And if we ever abandon those values, we would not only make it a lot easier to radicalize people here and around the world, but we would have betrayed the very things we are trying to protect. And then the terrorists would have won. And we cannot let that happen. I will not let that happen.
Okay, that was our president again, and he was speaking about Donald Trump, who clearly, in his mind, has wrongfully named and broad-stroked the whole religion of the Muslim faith, of Islam. And from what I've heard, that's just not true. There's a certain sect within Islam called radical Islam, radical Muslim, that is prescribing to this violence. It's not broad-stroking the whole Muslim faith. I myself, I respect all religions. I respect any people that are atheists, that aren't religious. I respect their decision to whatever they believe in. And I believe Donald Trump does as well. But when you are fighting an enemy, when you are in combat, when you are in war, You have to name your enemy. How can you fight an enemy when you can't even pronounce what the enemy or define what the enemy is? And I have friends of mine that have served in the military, and that's one of the things that drives them crazy, is that our president is worried about being more PC, politically correct, and not offending people out there than defending our country and our lives that are within this country. And we've had 7.5 years of our president apologizing to the rest of the world for Americans just being Americans. And I myself, I'm going to be glad that in January that this apologizing president will be out of office. I can't wait to watch that happen. Oh, but someone may get in worse. But anyway, hey, on that note, I got to cut the break here, and you got to listen to some information here. And then I'll be back in just a couple of minutes. I'm going to continue my show here on the Orlando shooting and all of the cutting edge topics that it surrounds.
The Dave Mierswa Show, the cutting-edge talk show about legal, political, and current issues. Practicing in both Wisconsin and Illinois, David Mierswa is a leading trial attorney bringing nearly 2 decades of business law, family law, personal injury, and estate planning experience to you. The Dave Mierswa Show, about the people, for the people, and bringing justice to the people. The Dave Mierswa Show, its guests, agents, and WRLR are not rendering any legal advice. All listeners are encouraged to seek legal advice from properly licensed and qualified professionals.
Welcome back to the Dave Mierswa Show. I hope everyone's having a great Sunday. Just got back from a break here, and I am going over the cutting edge topics surrounding the Orlando shooting and all of the emotional and all of the political fallout from America's biggest mass shooting, which at the beginning of my show, I played a CNN audio clip that was a tribute to all the victims. And if you just tuned into my show, I suggest that in the next day or so, this show gets recorded, and this show is live right now, but it gets recorded and it gets uploaded to my website, law540.com, law540.com, and you can listen to the show there, or usually within a day or so, I videotape this, and you can hear my voice, and you can put a face to my voice, and you can listen free on my YouTube channel as well. Just put in Dave Mierswa, Mierswa, Mierswa. All right, let me get back into my show here. I got a lot of audio clips, and I really want you to hear what the president had to say right after the shooting. So let me cue this up, and then we'll listen to President Obama with the Orlando shooting and what he had to say directly afterwards.
Today, as Americans, we grieve the brutal murder, a horrific massacre of dozens of innocent people. We pray for their families who are grasping for answers with broken hearts. We stand with the people of Orlando who have endured a terrible attack on their city. Although it's still early in the investigation, we know enough to say that this was an act of terror and an act of hate. And as Americans, we are united in grief, in outrage, and in resolve to defend our people. I just finished a meeting with FBI Director Comey and my Homeland Security and National Security advisors. The FBI is on the scene and leading the investigation in partnership with local law enforcement. I've directed that the full resources of the federal government be made available for this investigation. We are still learning all the facts. This is an open investigation. We've reached no definitive judgment on the precise motivations of the killer. The FBI is appropriately investigating this as an act of terrorism, and I've directed that we must spare no effort to determine what, if any, inspiration or association this killer may have had with terrorist groups. What is clear is that he was a person filled with hatred. Over the coming days, we will uncover why and how this happened, and we will go wherever the facts lead us. This morning I spoke with my good friend Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer, and I conveyed to him the deepest condolences of the American people. This could have been any one of our communities. So I told Mayor Dyer that whatever help he and the people of Orlando need, they are going to get it. As a country, we will be there for the people of Orlando today, tomorrow, and for all the days to come. We also express our profound gratitude to all the police and first responders who rushed to harm's way. Their courage and professionalism saved lives and kept the carnage from being even worse. It's the kind of sacrifice that our law enforcement professionals make every single day for all of us, and we can never thank them enough. This is an especially heartbreaking day for all of our friends, our fellow Americans who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender. The shooter targeted a nightclub where people came together to be with friends, to dance and to sing, and to live. The place where they were attacked is more than a nightclub. It is a place of solidarity and empowerment where people have come together to raise awareness, to speak their minds, and to advocate for their civil rights. So this is a sobering reminder that attacks on any American, regardless of race, ethnicity, religion, or sexual orientation, is an attack on all of us and on the fundamental values of equality and dignity that define us as a country. And no act of hate or terror will ever change who we are or the values that make us Americans. Today marks the most deadly shooting in American history. The shooter was apparently armed with a handgun and a powerful assault rifle. This massacre is therefore a further reminder of how easy it is for someone to get their hands on a weapon that lets them shoot people in a school, or in a house of worship, or a movie theater, or in a nightclub. And we have to decide if that's the kind of country we want to be. And to actively do nothing is a decision as well. In the coming hours and days, we'll learn about the victims of this tragedy. Their names, their faces, who they were, the joy that they brought to families and to friends, and the difference that they made in this world. Say a prayer for them, and say a prayer for their families. May God give them the strength to bear the unbearable. And that He give us all the strength to be there for them, and the strength and courage to change. We need to demonstrate that we are defined more as a country by the way they live their lives than by the hate of the man who took them from us. As we go together, we will draw inspiration from heroic and selfless acts. Friends who helped friends, took care of each other, and saved lives. In the face of hate and violence, we will love one another. We will not give in to fear or turn against each other. Instead, we will stand united as Americans to protect our people and defend our nation and to take action against those who threaten us. May God bless the Americans we lost this morning. May He comfort their families. May God continue to watch over this country that we love. Thank you.
Okay, that was President Obama right after the Orlando shooting, and he really gave a tribute to the officers. That there were 9 or 10 SWAT team officers that stormed in because they thought that the shooter may end up shooting. There was like 30 hostages, so they went in. And I also believe that they deserve a big thank you for saving more of the lives. I guess some of the hostages were possibly shot by the police, but when you go into a situation like that, you just don't know. But overall, I believe that they acted with courage. I believe all of the lives that were saved as a result of the courage of the officers that had to make a call like that. There really is no good decision when you have a hostage standoff like that, and it's all bad. But you got to make those hard calls, and I think the call that they did saved lives, definitely. And when they took out the shooter, which I'm glad that they're able to terminate him so he couldn't hurt or kill more Americans. I want to play, here is the ex-wife of the shooter, and this is an audio clip from ABC. This is kind of interesting. So I'm not trying to talk as much with my opinion here. I want to have my audience out here listen to all the diverse aspects of the shooting, and it keeps growing every week. So let me play, this is an audio clip from the ex-wife of the shooter.
Turn now to more on what we know about the shooter of Marmateen. Investigators are searching his home for evidence and weapons. He'd been on the FBI's radar for possible links to terrorism. And ABC's chief investigative correspondent Brian Ross is in New York with a look into his past. And Brian, you have a revealing interview with his ex-wife.
That's right. Good morning, George. Long before the attack, Omar Mateen was known to people close to him as unhinged, homophobic, and violent.
This was a sick person that was really confused and went crazy.
This is Omar Mateen's ex-wife, Satora Yousefi, who told ABC News he regularly beat her and was a man full of hatred buried deep.
His body was just totally opposite, angered and emotional and violent. And that later evolved to abuse to me.
As the FBI sought clues as to what triggered the attack on the Orlando nightclub, his ex-wife said he could not stand people who were gay.
He would express his anger towards a certain culture, homosexuality. There was definitely moments that he would express his intolerance to homosexuals.
A former co-worker says Mateen was very open about his dislike of gays.
He also had a lot of hatred for people, black people, women, Hispanics, or did he like gay or lesbian people?
Mateen was an American citizen born in New York who attended high school in Stuart, Florida. He worked as a security guard for the last 9 years, posting this picture of himself wearing an NYPD t-shirt.
He really loved the police department. He worked as a correctional officer or a guard at the Juvenile Delinquent Center.
While his ex-wife says she knew of no connection to extremism, officials say Mateen declared his allegiance to ISIS in a 911 call as he was holding hostages at the nightclub.
I think it's very compelling evidence that this is an ISIS-related terrorist attack in the United States.
The FBI had twice investigated Mateen for possible ties to terrorism in 2013 and 2014, interviewing him 3 times, but concluded he was not a threat.
We determined that contact was minimal and did not constitute a substantive relationship or a threat at that time.
Mateen remarried a few years ago and had a 3-year-old son with his second wife when he carried out his attack. Satora says she was lucky to escape alive from her marriage to Mateen.
I'm blessed to have the family that I do because they saved me from death.
Because the FBI investigation into Mateen found no evidence of any ties to terrorism, there were no criminal charges. He was able legally to buy the 2 guns he used in the attack, an assault rifle and a Glock pistol purchased just last week, Amy.
So many people are just so puzzled by all of this, Brian. Thank you.
Turn now to more.
So that was the ex-wife of the shooter. I'm not going to give him the privilege of pronouncing his name. He doesn't deserve it. So I'm not going to pronounce him. I will call him the shooter. There's other things I can call him, but I can't because we're on air. But Here is the father of the shooter, and let's hear what he has to say. I got a few minutes here before my show ends. I want you to hear what the father has to say. This is real interesting. We'll discuss this in a second here. So let me cue this up.
Good evening from Orlando, the focal point of a nation still reeling from the carnage that took place just up the street at the Pulse nightclub. Tonight, new cell phone video of the moment the dance floor turned into a killing field. Shocking stories of survival, harrowing escapes, and heroic acts in the face of relentless hate. And we were there as one survivor was reunited with her angel, the man who blocked a bullet for her.
At that moment in that room, it wasn't a typical shooting. It was hate. It was going boom, 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 nonstop.
Were people screaming? Were they?
It was chaos. It felt like a war zone. There's bullets flying all over the place, and people just want to protect themselves and run. And you're hearing the moans of people.
What are you thinking about where Jeanette is and how to get to her?
I was scared. I was scared.
Fear and heartache weigh heavy in the Orlando night. Outside the hospital, Jeanette McCoy waits for an update on her friend, Angel.
It was hard knowing that I am alive because my buddy was right behind me and he gets shot in his back. I'm not dead because of him, because that bullet was supposed to be on my back.
That was Angel.
That was Angel. He's my angel.
These are the harrowing stories of survival and courage after the deadliest mass shooting in American history.
All I could think about is how near death was.
I saw bodies going down, and the guy next to me was shot. People were running. I got stepped on a couple times, but I was like, I don't care if I'm getting stepped on, I'm still alive.
49 victims dead, 53 injured at a gay nightclub in Orlando. Tonight, a nation in mourning over lives lost.
So that was not the father. That was some of the victims that survived in the carnage that they must have gone through. Was just got to be tremendous. Let me cue up. I got a couple minutes here before my show ends. So let me cue up what the father said right after the shooting.
We are learning more this morning about the Orlando shooter, Omar Mateen. We heard from his ex-wife earlier, and now his father is speaking out as well, saying the entire family is in shock. ABC's Lindsay Janis sat down with him. Good morning, Lindsay.
Good morning, George. This is the apartment complex where Omar Mateen lived. Investigators leaving here just this morning. And last night, Omar's father spoke with us, telling us he felt compelled to address the victims' families.
Overnight, the father of Omar Mateen speaking out.
And I want to tell everybody out there that I'm really sorry. That's what happened, and I'm really sad and mad, and I share your pain.
Sadiq Mateen and his wife came to America from Afghanistan more than 30 years ago. Omar and his 3 sisters born here in the U.S.
Do you have any idea why he might have done this?
I wish I had. That's what I said. He surprised me because I didn't see anything irregular with him.
He says his son recently got upset when he saw a gay couple publicly showing each other affection.
Did he get angry?
He got really shocked that they were kissing each other in front of the families and the kids.
In light of what's happened, do you look back on anything that he said that implied that he has hatred?
Nothing, no. I didn't see nothing irregular. If I would have seen something irregular, I would have stopped it myself.
Was he radicalized in any way? Did he have sympathies with ISIS?
That I didn't know, and I wasn't aware of it at all. ISIS is a terrible group. I don't agree that someone says he's radicalized. He wasn't, because he had no beard. And he was just a regular person going to work, coming back and take care of his wife and his kids.
You think that he did it for another reason?
I wish he was alive. I could have asked him that question. I think based on what I see, now I remember, I don't think he was radicalized.
And he has a young son?
Yeah, 3.5-year-old son.
You have a 3.5-year-old grandson?
Yes.
Have you spoken to his wife today?
Yeah, she called me and she's very mad and she was crying.
Did she know anything about his plans?
Not that I know.
So the complexity of what happened in Orlando is just starting to unravel. The wife of the shooter apparently drove him to the Pulse Club several times, and then she also possibly had some involvement with the ammunition and or possibly involvement with the purchasing of ammunition and weapons. So it's interesting also, there's an audio clip out there that within 3 or 4 days after the Orlando shooting, the father of the shooter said some disparaging comments about the LGBT community. And I'll allow you to go find that. You can go to YouTube and just put in, Orlando shooting father's comments, and you can listen to that for yourself. So that was interesting. He really made some disparaging remarks about LGBT, and which is in contradiction to what he just said about his so-called, heartfelt for all the victims and so forth. So I got a couple minutes left here of the show, and it is not easy for me to try to divorce myself from the emotions of this. And I hear all the audio clips, and when I prepare for my show, a lot of times I see the videos, and it is just heart-wrenching. And again, I just want to say to all the listeners and your family out there and all of my friends that tune into my show every week that, take some time today. I know we're all rushing around, but really take some time today. Hug your kids and don't take everything for granted. You be kind to other people out there. If you see an officer, thank an officer. They've been thrown under the bus by the Obama administration for the last 7.5 years. I'm not going to get into that, but thank an officer, thank firefighters, thank our civil leaders out there, and just try to be extra kind to people out there, and try to remember that that's what it's all about. It's trying to dispel all the hate and cut across all the economic divisions, cut across any race divisions that are in your mind, and get to know yourself better, be more comfortable with people around you, get to know your neighbors. They may be coming in from another part of the world or whatever, different religion. But this show, I try to educate people, and one of my main missions is to try to break these barriers down. So I gotta go. I'll be back next Sunday, 12 noon. I hope you enjoyed this show. Take care of yourself and your family, and have a great Sunday now.